Hi Scorpio, this is Tisch Aitken, and this is your monthly report for the month of June 2022. If you could please subscribe to my channel, I would really appreciate it. So much has been happening. We're in major eclipse season in the month of June, and you were under the radar because the eclipses were in the Taurus-Scorpio axis. So at the end of April, Pluto, which is the planet of power and elimination and transformation, and the ruler of your sign, retrograded at 28 degrees and 36 minutes of the cardinal earth sign of Capricorn. And that was just a day before the partial solar eclipse in your house of relationships and partnerships. And that was a new moon eclipse. The moon does love being in Taurus, where it's in its exaltation, but it was also coupled with Uranus, the planet of chaos, surprise, and the unexpected. Eclipses want us to change and raise our consciousness and wake up. And Uranus wants us to wake up too. And wake up, we did. And so a lot of shocking news out of the blue. I heard of great new opportunities that came in for some in a flash, really exciting new opportunities. The two benefics of the zodiac, Venus and Jupiter, were conjunct on that new moon eclipse in Pisces, where they're both in strong positions. So that was positive, but again, twists and turns, and eclipses are like wild cards. And for you, it occurred in your house of revelation, house of relationships, and now revelations. Maybe you got some revelations about some relationships. Maybe you met somebody out of the blue. Maybe there were some shakeups with friends or romantic partnerships. And then the big deal was there was a total lunar eclipse in Scorpio in your sign that occurred on May 15th or May 16th, depending on where you live. And that occurred in your house of self and immediate environment. And it was at 25 degrees and 18 minutes of the fixed water sign of Scorpio, squaring Saturn, the planet of restrictions and limitations. Saturn is transiting in your house of real estate and emotional security. And that's where you're building foundation and committing. But Saturn doesn't really like being in that house, and it's a difficult placement. It will be there until March 7th of next year. So ensuring that you get your needs met when it's not easy, but also building, strong foundation in spite of that. And now the eclipse energy is gone. The new moon in Gemini ended that trajectory, and the new moon fell in your house of healing and financial partnerships and money and debt that could have brought new financial opportunities, hopefully, for you. And the eclipse is in the Taurus-Scorpio axis. Those are both money signs. Scorpio is much more psychological, but it deals with debt and taxes and investments and financial partnerships. Taurus is about earning money and income. So that was also a big focus. But for you, in your house of self and in relationships, so partnerships have been really under the radar as well. And now we're out of the eclipse energy. Mercury is just about to station direct in Taurus, in your house of relationships. It did retrograde in Gemini on May 10th at 4 degrees and 50 minutes of the mutable air sign of Gemini in your house of death and regeneration, as well as money. It returned to the sign of Taurus on May 22nd, and it's stationing direct in your house of relationships, reassessing your partnerships, maybe hearing from somebody from the past in the process, which often happens when Mercury is retrograde anyway, but reassessing your debt, your finances, and your partnerships, big theme. And Mercury stationing direct, but Saturn, the planet of limitations, is retrograding the following day. And we feel that station 5 days before and 5 days after, and that emphasizes the qualities of that planet. In the case of Saturn, it's karma, it's restrictions, responsibility, and accountability. It can feel pressured, and Mercury sparring with Saturn can feel like the glass is half empty, but it's about working hard to proceed ahead, and you got to do it. So, and the other thing too, there's a lot of emphasis in Aries and in Taurus. So in the case of Aries, it's transiting in your house of work and daily routine and habits. It expands your work life. Jupiter, the luckiest planet, entered the Cardinal Fire sign of Aries on May 10th, where it will tour through October 28th and expanding your workload. If you've been kind of slow, you definitely will be busier with this energy. It brings optimism and hope in your area of health and in your habits. Chiron, the wounded healer, is transiting in that sector. And Eris, the goddess of discord, is there as well, and fighting for healing. And Mars, the planet of action and passion, also entered the Cardinal Fire sign of Aries on May 24th, where it will be until July 5th. And this is excellent for getting things done, feeling very driven. And Mars is the ancient ruler of your sign. So feeling very driven in your pursuits. And Mercury stations direct on June 3rd. Oh, and the other thing too, sorry, that the emphasis in Taurus is in your house of relationships. Venus is in its domicile in Taurus, where it loves to be, transiting in your house of relationships. Uranus, the great awakener, is there as well. The north node of karma, where you're meant to go towards and grow, transiting in your house of relationships until July 17th of next year. And Mercury, which is about to station direct in your house of relationships. So focusing very much on your work and health, but also on your relationships. Big theme has been lit up since the eclipse season. So with that said, Mercury stations direct on June 3rd at 4 o'clock a.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 26 degrees and 5 minutes of the fixed Earth sign of Taurus in your house of relationships, moving ahead. If there's been miscommunication, hopefully you can revise that now. And then on the following day, Saturn, restrictions and hard work and responsibility, stations retrograde at 5:47 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 25 degrees and 15 minutes of the fixed air sign of Aquarius in your house of home and security. And, you know, if you work from home, maybe you're feeling pressured, maybe there are things coming up at your home that you're dealing with, fixing things, rebuilding, renovations. And, you know, again, there's a pressure in that, doing a lot of hard work. On June 6th, the sun forms a helpful aspect to Chiron, the wounded healer, and this occurs at 4:44 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, bringing levity to the healing process and working on healing. On June 10th, Mercury, the planet of communication, forms a beautiful aspect to Pluto, the planet of empowerment and transformation. And this occurs at 5:21 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Excellent for doing research and getting to the bottom of things. Excellent for you for getting a lot of hard work done and getting accomplished. On June 13th, Mercury changes signs and enters the mutable air sign of Gemini, where it will transit until July 5th in your house of money and healing and empowerment, focusing on those areas of your life and facing them dead on, because the eclipses brought things up for you in order to heal and get things structured with your finances too. And let's see, on June 14th, there is a full moon that occurs at 7:52 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 23 degrees and 25 minutes of the mutable fire sign of Sagittarius. This occurs in your house of endings and spirituality and dreams. You may have some very intuitive, strong dreams at that time. It is nowhere near as intense as the total lunar eclipse in Scorpio. Okay, so it's not that bad. Releasing the negativity and tapping into the optimism of the moon in Sag, which is a really fun placement of the moon, actually. And then on June 16th, the sun forms a helpful aspect to Saturn at 3:13 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That's a stabilizing energy and helps you feel centered, which is good because then the sun squares Neptune at 9:41 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That can feel dreamy and you could feel a little tired from that energy, but it could be very creative and romantic conceivably, but just getting rest and meditating. And then on June 20th, Mercury, the planet of perspective and communication, forms an excellent aspect to Jupiter, the luckiest planet, at 3:44 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Excellent for focusing on manifesting and healing your health and your work and your finances and feeling optimistic. On June 21st, the solstice occurs. In the northern hemisphere, it's when the sun is at the maximum declination above the celestial equator. In the southern hemisphere, it's when the sun is at its lowest declination. It's the beginning of the summer season in the northern hemisphere and the winter in the southern. The sun stops for approximately 3 days, and in Latin, sol means the sun, sistere means to stop. You stop and reflect of what the season has in store for you ahead. You can celebrate it with a ritual or what you want to achieve. And I cast the chart for the solstice, which occurs at 5:14 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, when the sun enters the cardinal water sign of Cancer, where it will transit until July 22nd in your house of hope and promotion and optimism and manifestation, as well as higher learning. And the solstice chart has Gemini ascendant. Therefore, Mercury rules the chart, is in its dignity in Gemini, where it loves to be. It's in the 12th house of spirituality and selfless love. There's a lot of emphasis in Aries. The moon is in Aries, conjunct Jupiter, the luckiest planet, in the house of community and groups. Finding courage to expand through passion and through group support and finding your tribe. There's also a lot of emphasis on Taurus. Venus, the planet of love and money, in its dignity in Taurus, in the house of spirituality, where it's also exalted and lovely. Selfless love, conjunct the north node of karma, bringing love to a broken, a wounded world. And Uranus, the great awakener, conjunct the north node of karma, also in the spiritual house. How do we find innovative ways to heal people that are alienated right now, or definitely feel that way? So love is the answer. And Venus forms a beautiful trine to Pluto, which is an aspect where the planets are 120 degrees from one another. That's a flow of energy and very lucky. And that occurs at 4:23 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, bringing more empowerment through love. Pluto is the modern ruler of your chart. Venus rules your house of relationships. You can heal through love. We all can. I mean, we can't take back what's happened, but we can move ahead and try to heal ourselves and others. And on June 22nd, Venus changes signs and enters the mutable air sign of Gemini at 8:34 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, where it will tour through July 17th in your house of money and joint resources. And, actually, before I mentioned that the full moon is in Sagittarius, it's actually in your house of income and money. So I'm not going back to the video again because it's been a very difficult time and busy. But that full moon is still lighthearted and it's falling in your house of income, hopefully bringing fruition to what you've been working on. And with Venus entering Gemini, that's bringing financial opportunities, it's bringing love and beauty to the healing process. So that's helpful, and it'll be in that sector of your chart through July 17th, and definitely good for bringing financial help and hope. And then on June 25th, Jupiter, the luckiest planet, aspects the north node of karma. And pay attention to whom you meet and what happens around that time. That could bring very opportune and fated situations into your life. On June 27th, Mars, which is the ancient ruler of your chart, the planet of action and passion, forms a helpful aspect to Saturn, the planet of structure. And this occurs at, let's see, when does this occur? It happens, at 6:29 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, structuring your work and getting things done. And then on June 28th, a lot is happening. There's another planetary station of an outer planet, Neptune, the planet of dreams and imagination and illusion, stations retrograde at 3:54 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 25 degrees and 23 minutes of the mutable water sign of Pisces. We feel it 5 days before and 5 days after. It's occurring in your house of romance and children and self-expression. You could feel very, foggy with that energy because Neptune is accentuated. It could feel confusing, but it is very creative and psychic energy as well. You could feel very intuitive at that time. It is the day of a new moon, so tapping into dreams and your imagination in manifesting work. The sun will square Jupiter at 8:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which can be excessive, but also is hopeful energy. The new moon occurs at 10:52 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 7 degrees and 23 minutes of the cardinal water sign of Cancer. And this falls in your house of friends and groups and networking, and that's very positive energy. And the new moon is always a time for setting intentions. It's in the house of wishes. This could bring new opportunities in your social life, but also the moon loves being in Cancer. It's the sign it rules. Really focus on what you want to magnetize and maybe do it with a group because that brings more power to your manifestation. And the two benefics of the zodiac are in harmony on the day of the new moon. Venus forms a helpful aspect to Jupiter, the luckiest planet, at 11:52 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And that brings opportunity and good fortune on the day of the new moon. I wish you a lot of luck and thank you very much.